Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Time for another Ask a Crafter, and this is from the same batch of questions that the last two episodes have been from. Link in the video description on where you can put your questions for an upcoming episode, and make sure to thumbs up the questions you want to see answered so I'll know what's the most popular and what you guys want to know. This first question today comes from Cassie's Creations. In your experience, what paper is the best for most mediums or mixed media? Okay, so say you use alcohol markers and watercolors, acrylics, color pencil, all of that. I think the most versatile paper, if you could only pick one, now I'm not going to say it's the best in any of these categories, but the most versatile one that will work with all of these different mediums, I would say would be Bristol. And you can get Bristol, it's called Bristol board as well, but it's a really thick kind of like cardstocky or hot press watercolor papery feeling thing, but it works well for alcohol markers as well as watercolor, as well as colored pencil, as well as graphite. It's a very versatile paper. Now, it's not going to be the best for any one medium, but if you like to use a bunch of different things and you only want one pad of paper or you want one journal, like the Strathmore Visual Journal, Bristol Smooth is fantastic for that. You can stamp on it. It's smooth enough to stamp on. You can draw, color, collage, paint, whatever you want. So if you only do one type of medium though, I would research what paper is best for that medium, but all around, I would definitely say Bristol Smooth because it'll do everything pretty well. Let's see, Monica Morgan asks, what is your take on buying supplies from AliExpress? Ooh, that's controversial. Well, personally, I've never shopped there. It's probably no different than buying from Amazon though, because AliExpress is a marketplace just like Amazon, where I don't think actually AliExpress has products. Like with Amazon, probably like, I don't know, half of what's on Amazon is sold by Amazon, and the rest is sold by third-party sellers. Like most everything I buy, it seems like it comes from a third-party seller because I'm usually buying like an art supply. So big stores like Jerry's Artorama and Blick Art Materials, they'll also sell some of their products on Amazon. I've bought art supplies from Society for All Artists out of the UK on Amazon, because it's just such a huge amount of online retail that a lot of stores will sell products on there, so they get a piece of the pie. And there's also, you know, a lot of budget brands on there that are also sold on AliExpress because it's a marketplace. Anybody can open up shop there and sell their wares. So I don't think that buying on AliExpress is any different than buying on Amazon. I see counterfeit products on Amazon all the time in the stamps and die arena. So, you know, so it does creep in there too. I think it's more rampant over on AliExpress, but I mean, if you're buying a set of watercolor paints, a Paul Rubens set of watercolor paints you can't find on Amazon, it's probably sold by the same people, most likely. They just have a shop on both sites because it's a platform like Squarespace or any of those online platforms, Shopify or any place like that, except they've got a built-in audience, and that's why these sellers sell there. Of course, I'm not, sorry if I'm froggy, I've recorded like 5 videos today, and they've been heavy on the talking videos. I don't condone buying counterfeit merchandise because it hurts the originators who did the research and development, who did the designs. These stamp companies that have hired illustrators to illustrate their designs, and they've paid for those designs, and then they're getting ripped off by AliExpress, who never paid the designer for the designs. They're just taking what's popular and selling it for cheap, and they're generally not high quality products. They're like, the stamps would be made of silicone versus made from photopolymer. So you're not getting the same product that you would be getting from a reputable seller in that case. But if you're buying something generic, then I don't think it's that big of a deal. Or if you're buying like a media, because yeah, those generally aren't counterfeited. They're, you know, the same sellers that are selling on every platform. But I would probably be careful buying stamps and dies. Now, the other thing I would be careful about is using a credit card on those sites, because I have no idea if AliExpress is a legitimate site to use a credit card. I've heard of people getting their cards stolen on sites, on Wish anyway. So, you know, personally, I'm not shopping there because I'm not going to risk my identity stuff being stolen for the sake of saving a few bucks, but that's me. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case. I'm not accusing them of having faulty security on their websites, but Personally, I'm not comfortable with it, shopping there myself. I'm not gonna, you know, say anybody else shouldn't, because I see people that are really happy shopping there. They get like watercolor paper and paints directly from the Chinese manufacturers that are much cheaper than buying them on Amazon. So, you know, I think it depends on what you're buying. If you're buying stamps there, chances are they're good chance they're counterfeit. So just buyer beware. That would be it. Buyer beware, just like shopping on Amazon, except maybe just a little more sketchy. Oh boy, Shirley R asks, where can I get my own stamps made? I am bilingual and I have a hard time finding stamps in Spanish. There's a company called Bossy Josie, I believe, they're in the US, I believe, and they do custom stamps. Stampin' Up! Used to do some custom stamps. I think they're kind of expensive. And Onyx Expressions, I don't know if they're still in business, but they did beautiful custom rubber stamps. So there's a couple places to try. And I think there's a place called like rubberstamps.net that does custom stamps, but I've never ordered from them, but I have heard good things about Bossy Josie. I always want to say Bossy Jossie because it doesn't seem like it should rhyme. But anyway, I'll try to remember to link it, but if I don't, just Google it. I'm sure it can't be too many of those. Let's see. Okay, Grandma Sews. I can't read her whole name because it's truncated on my app here. I know you've covered this in various videos, but could you put together the best storage position for various marker types? Yes, and how convenient, because I've got them right here. Do my Vanna White. Generally, if your marker has two ends, store it horizontally, whether it's alcohol-based or water-based. If your marker is filled with a liquid ink like this, you want to store it tip up, otherwise it will leak. And that's pretty much it. Now, a lot of markers say you can store them anyway. Like Tombow has their own storage rack that has them straight up, and people don't seem to have a problem with that. So, I mean, if a company makes a storage rack that specifically has them stand a certain way, then I would go with that. But generally, if it's a double-inked marker, double-ended marker, store them flat, and that's really all you have to remember. Also, acrylic paint markers, I like to store them flat or even tip down sometimes just to make sure that ink stays nice and fresh, and mostly so the tip doesn't dry out, because with the acrylic markers, they have like a felt tip, and it can get dried out. Once it gets dry, you have to throw it away almost, because you can't reactivate that ink that's in the tip, so you want to keep that tip wet. So your acrylic pens can go tip down or flat, but I wouldn't do them straight up unless you're using them every day and you're always kind of remoistening the end. Where's the best, Kim's Crafts asks, where's the best place for complete beginner tutorials to painting with tutorials or techniques mainly? YouTube? There's so many. You know, if you want to learn soup to nuts how to paint something, you're gonna save time by taking a class, whether it be in person or online. I have a class, shameless plug, Essential Tools and Techniques for Watercolor Painting, and that is put together to be very efficient, to teach you everything you need to know to get from I know nothing about painting, how do I hold a brush, to here are 4 paintings that you can do using a large variety of techniques. So something like that would get you painting quicker and you won't have any gaps. Whereas if you're taking a tutorial here and a tutorial there, you'll learn, but it might take you longer and you might miss some vital things because you're not taking like a class which proceeds in a predictable and a logical manner. So if you can't take a class, I would just, you know, look for tutorials that you like, and you can definitely learn that way. But online classes are very affordable, and you can really save yourself a lot of time and avoid picking up bad habits too. So I'd recommend my class, or you know, just or YouTube videos. There's so much out there. Let's see. Naries asks, what? Ooh, another. This is is it controversial? I don't know. Naries asks, what's your opinion on art subscription boxes? Well, you see, I have a lot of supplies, so for me to get an art subscription box, chances are I'm going to have what's in the box already. I have gotten some delightful little like pens and things like that that I didn't know about, that I wouldn't have known about without an art subscription box. But I think they're best for beginners and for people that don't have a lot of supplies already, so there's a lower chance of them getting duplicate products. The thing with art subscription boxes is they can vary quite a bit. Art subscription boxes that send you brand name supplies, you're generally going to get less of your money's worth, because the people putting together the art subscription boxes are generally purchasing those items from a distributor who's purchasing them from the manufacturer, who then has to get them made from the factory, and so you've got quite a few middlemen in there. So you usually get the retail value out of the box, but oftentimes you don't get much more. Pardon me, if you're getting a box from a company, from a manufacturer, then you generally get a lot more for your money because they're making the products. So they don't have, it's not getting marked up 3 or 4 times before it hits you. So I think the subscription boxes that have the greatest value are generally the crafting boxes and not the art supply boxes, because they are, the people that are doing them are the manufacturer of the stamps and of the papers and things, so they can bring them to, they can put a lot more value in the box for less money. But, you know, look at past boxes. There's so many unboxings on YouTube. So look at the companies you're interested in and see what they put in their boxes and see what ones you would be most likely to use. And look at a few unboxings, because it can vary hugely from month to month. Like with a Smart Art box, I might get like 3 in a row that I really like, that I don't have the stuff in there, and then the next 3 were duds. They were stuff that I really had to struggle to use. So and they were one of the bigger boxes that had some of the more supplies in it than some of the other ones. Like a lot of them were just pens and things like that. So it's fun. It's fun to get a subscription box because it's kind of like you're buying yourself a present every month and you don't know what's in it. But the other hand, anytime you have grab bags or subscription boxes or anything like that where you don't really know what you're buying, chances are you're going to get a lot of stuff that you're not going to use. I had to swear off grab bags because I loved getting grab bags at stamp shows and stuff, but so much of them I've never used. I never would use the stamps because they were either redundant of stuff I had, or they didn't go with anything I had, or they weren't my style. So you know what you're going to use. Just educate yourself on the particular box. I don't think they're as useful for people that have been painting for a while, because they already know what they like and they probably already have most of the things. I think it might be good, like something like Smart Art, where they have a project. Would be really handy for a homeschool parent that doesn't do art, because it would have like everything you need and a couple ideas. Whereas if you're somebody that's got the ideas, they know what they like to do, a subscription box might be kind of a waste of money when they could take that money and pick out exactly what they want. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. We welcome yours. There used to be an editorial guy on TV called Fred Nutter who used to say, "That's my opinion. We welcome yours." Shout out to Maine local TV watchers. There'll be like 3 of you. Comment down below if you know who Fred Nutter is. Oh my gosh, it would be crazy if it was like one of his relatives. Like, watching that would be funny. Okay. Oh, you know, there was one question here that I remembered that I actually answered last week, but it was asked by Taya Huntsman. It was about is it safe to order things in the winter if it freezes? Don't order acrylic paint or glue in the winter. That's a short answer. But I answered your question in the last video, so but I didn't think it had enough votes to answer, and I just kind of answered it off the top of my head. So I want to make sure you got your shout out. The next one is from Elizabeth Miller. Can reinkers for ink pads and alcohol markers go bad or dry up? How would you revive them if they dry up? Any advice to store them so they're less likely to go bad? Elizabeth, I've never had a reinker dry up on me. That's and I bought some used at yard sales and stuff. I have had some pigment inks kind of get a little bit chunky, but I've been able to shake them up. They usually stay pretty well. Of course, you can use them up, but I've never found them to dry out at all, because they're usually capped tightly. I keep mine in a shoebox. I keep all my my reinkers in a shoebox, standing upright, like under a dresser in my storage area, and I've never had a problem. And they shouldn't freeze or anything like that. Even if they do, I don't think that would necessarily hurt them. I guess if it's a water-based dye ink, you could add a couple drops of the distilled water. If it's an alcohol ink, you could add a couple drops of 90% alcohol or denatured alcohol or ethanol. And if it's pigment ink, you could add a couple drops of glycerin, maybe water if it's still too thick. They should, I would think they would reactivate even if they did dry up, as long as you had the right solvent. But I've never had that happen, so that's interesting. Neri's asked a question that was a very similar question asked on one of the other videos, but this is from online. Would you know why craft supplies are discontinued so soon after appearing in online shops? It's because the craft industry is so much like the fast fashion industry. There's only so many crafters. It's a small market, and crafters I think a lot of crafters keep their interest in the hobby by buying new things. And also there's so many craft companies that they kind of have to keep releasing new things every month and discontinuing things every month because the pool of buyers is so small. They have to constantly come up with new things for people to buy in order to stay in business. So that's the reason why things show up and then go away really quickly. And most of these products are also sourced out of China, like any of the, you know, craft brand paints or pencils or media. They're usually sourced from factories in China. They might not be able to get them again. They might be able to get one run of them and then they can't source that same product again, or the factory gets booked, or the prices go up from the factory, so they need to switch factories. So a lot of times they can only get one run. And oftentimes too, they'll release something. Everybody that buys it, that wants it, buys it. Then they just clearance it, and they're on to the next thing. That's why you usually can't get open stock products. You can't get a replacement pencil. You can't get a replacement paint. Prima is really good. They have they're a craft company, but they've come out with a lot of like watercolors and things like that, and they do sell replacement pans. I believe Mungio makes their watercolors. They used to anyway. I think they might have gone with somebody else now, but it's very similar quality. But they do have replacements, which is really nice because a lot of them don't. So yeah, Altenew is another craft company that does have refills for everything. So that's, I don't know if they have the individual pans of watercolor yet, but they do have for their markers and stuff. So good idea to keep that in mind if you're thinking about buying stuff. Also, I've noticed Altenew and Prima don't seem to discontinue their media, like their paints and markers and things like that. They build on, but they don't discontinue. So I really appreciate that when they do that. Okay, so crafts are fast fashion. Seems that way, doesn't it? Cassie's Creations had another question that got to 16 votes. Why use toned colored paper such as gray, tan, or blue? Well, the reason I use toned paper is it takes a lot of the work away. If you're using gray and you're using graphite, you've already got your middle ground down. You can add your deep shadows with a charcoal pencil, and you can add your highlights with white, and you have taken away like half the work, so you don't need to put all that middle tone. The same thing with any other toned paper. You want to use that toned paper to help your painting along. So it's not arbitrary what you use for a toned paper. If I was doing a landscape in pastel, oftentimes I'll use a red or a reddish brown paper because that red is going to make my greens vibrate and seem more vibrant and alive. So just, even though I'm going to cover most of the paper, having those little peaks of red show up here and there is going to make things feel more lively. So you can use an opposite color. You can use a color like if you're doing a portrait, you could use like a sandy tone or a peach or a brown, some color that's in there a lot. So it just saves you a lot of blending and a lot of work. Let's see, we're at 17 minutes. Crafty Max asks, what watercolors do you recommend for people who want to invest a little bit more after beginner paints? Paul Rubens is a great brand that's, or White Knights, I would say those two brands, they're a little bit more expensive than student grade. They're kind of entry-level pro grade paints, so you're getting a pretty decent light fast paint. I know that that White Knights is weaning out their fugitive colors and putting in light fast versions of some of their more popular colors that tend to be more a little more fugitive. So White Knights and Paul Rubens, you get a professional paint for a student quality price, which is really nice. So that's what I would recommend for that next step up before you go into something more expensive. And nothing wrong with those two brands either if you just want to stick with them. I would say beyond that, probably like a Daniel Smith or M. Graham. You know, even Da Vinci, they're a little bit less expensive, and they're a really nice paint too. So that would be my pick anyway. You can find sets pretty inexpensively on Amazon as well. Let's do one more question for this video, and it's from Calamita. Can you, and I'm sure your last name is truncated, so I don't want to mess it up. Can you use leftover acrylics to make spray paint for craft use? Well, once acrylic paint dries, it's dry. So if you do have some wet acrylic paint and you want to mix them up with some water to spray, you can. As long as you keep it wet, it should stay. You might want to put some alcohol in there rather than just straight water to keep it dissolved a little bit better. But you do have to be careful spraying alcohol. Never mind, don't use alcohol. I don't want you breathing in alcohol fumes just in case it has something in it. Yeah, you can use it. I'd probably try to use it up pretty quickly because acrylic sprays tend to clog and then you ruin the sprayer. So yeah, you've got a little you want to use up and you want to spray something with it. Yeah, why not? I wouldn't intend on keeping it around for too long, personally. I'm not a big fan of acrylic sprays because they clog. But It won't hurt anything. Yeah, give it a try. All right. Thank you guys for watching. That does it for this episode of Ask a Crafter. And all the information on upcoming episodes are in the video description, so check that out if you have a question that you're dying to ask me. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. And until next time, happy crafting. Bye.